Today I'm going to give a breakdown of how my AI automated product generators actually work. Like almost everything, if you just look at it all at once, it seems a lot more complicated than it is. When you break it down piece by piece and show what each part does and how each part connects to the other, leg bone connected to the hip bone, all of a sudden, voila, you can see how the inner workings work. And once you understand it, you even have a platform to build much more than this. In order to follow along, you'll need to sign in to your Make account. If you have not already created an account with Make and you're just now joining us, thank you for using the link in the description. It helps me keep making these videos. Once you're signed in to Make, you'll want to click on Scenarios, Create New Scenario, and you're going to import the blueprint if you've purchased my print-on-demand AI automated blueprints. Click on More, Import Blueprint. Navigate to the file that you unzipped. It comes in a zip folder. Unzip that puppy. And what we're going to do today, let's do acrylic art. It's a really simple, let's do acrylic wall art. Where is that? Wall art, there we go. And we'll do the vertical acrylic panel. Let me stretch that so you can see it. Save. And then once you have the blueprint imported, click Save, and you've saved it into your Make software. I've created these blueprints for both DALL and Ideogram. So for today's example, I'm going to be setting up an Ideogram-based blueprint, but if you prefer DALL, you can also import that blueprint instead. Each one of my AI automated product generator blueprints can be thought of as being built of three basic building blocks. I call them segments. Each segment is just a group of modules that perform a specific task. So in this case, we have the image generating segment, then we have the text generating segment that deals with your titles and descriptions, then we have the print on demand segment that deals with the uploading of the image and the creating of your product. The majority of my product generator blueprints are going to begin with the image generator module, and in this case it's Ideogram. Ideogram generates the best results for text in graphics, so whether or not you go with Ideogram or DALL by OpenAI, it's totally a matter of what you're trying to create. I find that for the world of pure art, without needing perfect text, either one is acceptable, but if you want cool text, Ideogram is the way to go. So let's open up our Ideogram module, and if you have not already connected the module, you're going to be prompted to do so. If you do not know how to do that, please refer back to the first video in this series where I walk you through module connections. We're going to skip past the prompt for now. Model. I use V2 Turbo. It's the latest and greatest. It is the most expensive to use when you're using the API, but overall you're going to get the best results. Resolution is selected for what we're trying to create here. So if you're using my blueprints, we're creating a vertical acrylic wall art, and this is the resolution that is best to use. And then for the type, this depends on what we want to create. And here in just a couple seconds, we're going to cut over to Ideogram, and I'm going to show you some examples so you can decide what style type you want to render in. Down here, your next option that we would configure will be magic prompt, and I have it off, but I'll show you what this means here in a minute. All it does is embellish your prompt a bit and give you, honestly kind of wildcard results, which is kind of the pro and con on using it there is, yes, it will embellish your prompt and make it better, but sometimes it does so in a way that you are not expecting and do not want. Then we have the option for negative prompt. And I always say, do not depict the canvas or any type of frame. Do not depict the artist, hands, or anything in the foreground. Sometimes when you're generating artwork, the AI will literally, it'll like show a piece of artwork on the wall that fits all of your descriptions, but it's displaying it as if it's a piece of art. And this negative prompting is an attempt to avoid that. And it can actually do this on different products depending on the way you prompt it. So like if you say, give me a graphic for a coffee mug, there was an example, here it is. It's funny, it put not only the slogan that it generated, but it depicted somebody holding a coffee cup, which a coffee cup on your coffee cup is not exactly what you want. Kind of like you don't want to have a picture of a sweater on a sweater. I actually kept that though. I put an ugly Christmas sweater in my sweater shop that was actually a ugly Christmas sweater of an ugly Christmas sweater. I thought it was hilarious, but yeah, I didn't sell any of them, but I thought it was great. Now we're going to circle back around to the prompt. And the best place to learn how to prompt for Ideogram is on the Ideogram website itself. So go to ideogram.ai and browse what they have. On any one of the images you see, click on it, and over on the side you're going to see the prompt that made it happen. If you want to see the full prompt, just click on More and it will drill down into the prompt for you. And then you can view some of these prompts can be rather comprehensive and complete. So you can copy paste that literally and you will get very similar results. Let's scroll around and see what some of these have to offer. That's kind of neat. And as you can see on some of them, you'll have prompt and magic prompt. And this is what happens. When you have magic prompt activated, your image will take the prompt that you've given it and it will generate a different prompt. And you can see in this case, they actually gave it a really long prompt and it looks like it truncated it a bit. Instead of actually making it longer and more complicated, it has shrunk this one in some way. So usually the way the magic prompt works, let me see if I can find a good example. There we go. The less you give it, the more it's going to embellish. So in this case, the person wrote, generate images of beautiful landscapes where there are trees, birds, and rainbows. And you can see magic prompt came back in and embellished that quite a bit, giving it more detail. Whereas if somebody starts out with more detail, like this person right here, and gives it quite a bit of prompting detail, then if you look A to B at the magic prompt compared to that, there are not too many differences. It might only modify certain things according to what it thinks it's optimizing for Ideogram. So I'm going to spend a few minutes scrolling around Ideogram until I find the right concept art to base this example on. Ooh, I like that a lot. Look at that. Kintsugi restored by gold. So I'm going to grab this. Ooh, so I love Ideogram, guys. I'm feeling a store idea coming on. I'm going to make acrylic art of Kintsugi restored pottery and see if I can actually sell that. Sounds kind of weird, but maybe there will be people who will buy it. Let's see. I'm going to grab that prompt and I'm going to copy paste it into my workflow. Open up the Ideogram module. There we go, a clean and modern book cover with the title Kintsugi Restored by Gold. And I don't want it to be that. So I'm going to modify this just a little bit because what I actually want in my wall art, I don't want it to say Kintsugi. I just want it to be photos of Kintsugi restorations. So let's see. A Kintsugi style pottery restoration of a black piece of pottery restored with veins of gold. And we'll leave the rest pretty much as it is. The body has cracks and imperfections, but they are highlighted with gold. The background is a rustic Japanese setting. Overall design represents the concept of Kintsugi, where beauty is found in imperfection and brokenness. Then where we have style type, I'm going to choose realistic because I want to get photographic style output. And last but not least, I am going to leave magic prompt off. And if we want to see those results, before we run the workflow, we can always run this through Ideogram, and you get, I believe, 10 credits per week. So I haven't used mine up yet. I'm going to put this prompt in, and let's see what comes out. I'm going to turn magic prompt off, so it does pretty much exactly what I want, and let's generate an example, and let's see what it looks like through Ideogram before we start using our workflow operations for it. 43% complete. Ideogram in general is pretty fast, even when they say you're in the slow queue. Pretty cool, guys. And to be honest, I could use any one of these as a piece of art. I actually, at first glance, I didn't like the border surrounding this, but second glance, I actually really love it. That was a quick second glance, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and use that. And let's move on. Let's save this. And we'll move on to our second module, the image scaler. Not all of my blueprints are going to include an image scaler. In fact, one of the big updates that I just released recently for my workflows, I went through and I identified all the products where the image scaler really isn't even needed, and I removed it. That'll save you a little bit of money, a little bit of time. It'll save you on your operations. Basically, there are some products that demand the image scaler where your product output just looks terrible without it, and there are others that just don't need it. I use an HTTP module to set up an image scaler. This allows me to call out APIs to deepai.org. Why am I using this? Ideogram's built-in scaler only goes up to 2x, so doubling the size just isn't good enough. I use DeepAI for a balance of cost and because it'll go bigger than 2x. We get 3x with the DeepAI image scaler. To set this up, if you don't already have a DeepAI account, you'll need to go over to deepai.org, set up an account. I've got a video that shows this setup, but we'll walk through it again right here. Basically, what you'll need to do is take this URL right here. This is the image scaler URL, which is https api.deepai.org/api/torch-srgan, which is the super resolution image scaler. I select evaluate all states as errors as no, which prevents stupid errors that don't mean anything to us. Method is post. The name in this field, if you don't already have it, you'll need to create an item under headers and API-key. Of course, if you have my blueprints, all of this will be set up for you and you don't have to do any of this. But if you're walking through manually and you need to set this up, API-key, and then you're going to copy paste your key from your DeepAI website. So go to deepai.org, under your account, view profile, and there's your API key to copy paste right there. If you don't have an API key, it's just going to error out because you're not able to actually use the API without it, obviously. Scroll down to body type, application XWW form URL encoded. Then, if you don't already have field created, you'll need to create a field and where it says key, image, all lowercase, and you're going to map to the output of your ideogram module. So when you click down in this field, you should see a flyout, a pop-out menu, and if you hover over URL, that's what you're going to need. Click down there and that will place this right here. You are now mapped so that your image scaler grabs the output from Ideogram, and that's what it's going to scale. Under parse response, we will select yes and click save. Moving over to the next segment, we have the title and description generator. Now, I'm using something you're all familiar with, ChatGPT by OpenAI. Easy to set up. I've had an account for a long time. However, you're not limited to this service. So if you have other language models that you would prefer to use, you can actually go to Add Module and you can replace these. Just do a search. There's all sorts of things built in to make. So let's say you want to use Google Gemini, search for Gemini, and you've got a module for Gemini, or let's say like Anthropic Claude. They've also got a module for that. Now, I'm not going to cover those because I'm not personally using those in these workflows and they're not baked into the blueprints that I sell, but just wanted to let you know that that is an available option. We'll open the title module and we'll go through a basic rundown of how it's set up. Very easy to set up. Under Method, you're going to select Create a Chat Completion Model GPT 4.0 Mini, and then you're going to want to select, if you do not already have this selected, create message, role, user, and create a unique short title appropriate for the following image. Then I've added the following negative prompting. Do not use quotes anywhere in the title. Do not use quotes at all. Only return the title itself. This comes from a little bit of experience in the past few weeks where it's just returning a lot of titles in quotes, and I don't like that passing into, my actual product titles. Next, very important, image input type. It is only GPT-4 or greater that allows you to do an image input. If you select any of the 3 or previous models, 3.5, etc., you won't be able to use image input. This will take the image and it will actually be able to analyze the visual content in generating this title. And just like the previous image scalar model, we are going to map to the output from the ideogram module, the URL output. Map to that and scroll down, max completion tokens. This is how many characters your title can be. You know, I don't know how many systems are still like this, but it used to be 32 characters was kind of a limit. You don't want to go that much bigger in titles. So I use 30, and sometimes I'll back off even less and click Save. That takes my image from Ideogram, generates a title, and then we're going to generate a description, next order of business. Almost everything else is set up the same, but we are doing different prompts. Max completion tokens in this case, I'm setting it to 200. That's telling it 200 is the max amount of characters I want to use in this product description that you're generating. So this one is a little bit different. We are first going to establish assistant role. So I'm going to select assistant, and now I'm telling it what its job is. You are a world-class copywriter for e-commerce companies. You specialize in creating product descriptions. Then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add another message entry. This one being like before, user. This is the prompt coming from me. Create a product description for a piece of vertical acrylic wall art based on, and then right here I have mapped to the title output. So I'm creating a description based on a title and the title based on the actual image, if that makes sense. In 400 characters or less. Use the word "and" instead of any ampersand signs. Add 10 relevant hashtags. Do not mention any artist names. All of these negative prompts just come from experience and getting output that I didn't want and adding negative prompts in an attempt to overcome that. Why did I choose to generate this description based on the title? It's actually a little bit more expensive to reference the image again and generate a description based on the image, and sometimes you'll get a little bit varying results. So this is the way I've created my workflows, and I'm finding better results with this. Simple answer. Scroll down, we need no image input here. Max completion tokens 200. And under advanced settings, I generally leave all this alone. And we've got temperature, top P, and number always set to 1. I've never modified those, so in general, we don't need to bother with that. Once you are done setting that up, click Save, and you have now configured the text generator segment. And the last segment in all of my print-on-demand blueprints is the POD segment itself. This is where you're publishing your product to your selected platform. In this case, I use Printify. It's the most robust and easy-to-use module of all the print-on-demand modules that you might find within Make. And this has pretty much every option for configuring the product exactly how you want it. They leave nothing out. Whereas, let's say we wanted to publish to another platform like Printful. That's another one that I used to use. And if we open their module, we can see they don't have the option to create a product. They've only got make an API call. So if I wanted to do the same thing using Printful, I would probably have to start, from scratch using their bare bones API. I don't want to do that, so I'm using Printify. I did just discover something cool because I've had a lot of people ask about Gelato. It turns out there is a Gelato community, and they do have a Make integration, and it looks like it costs like $35. I haven't tried it yet, but this is not off the table, guys. I might test this out, and if I like it, I will add it to my product generators and create a whole new set of product generators just for Gelato. But that's a segue. Let's get back to the lesson at hand. The first module for uploading your image, click right here. We're going to click down on file name, and if you're using my blueprints, it's pre-mapped for you. But if you need to map manually, you're going to click down, go to your title module under choices, message, and content, and you will map to the title. If you remember, back when I generated the title, I did a little bit of negative prompting specifically to avoid using quotes, And one big reason for that, it will error out on the upload image module. If it has quotes or any other characters around it, what it's doing is it's taking your title and then it's appending .jpeg or .png, probably one or the other. But if there's anything other than just the text, it will error out when trying to load into the system. If you run into errors with the upload image module, check out your title first to make sure you don't have any weird characters going on. Upload image by URL, and then we map to the output of our image scaler module. So that will be, if you're going to be doing it manually and you're following along, drill down to your image scaler under data and output URL. Click down there and you've mapped to your scaled image. It'll then upload your scaled image into Printify, and that will pass it into the Create a Product module. Under Create a Product, you select your shop ID. Where does your shop ID come from? Well, that comes from your Printify account. When you're signed in to Printify, you have the option to create up to 5 stores on a free account, and each one of these stores can be connected to a different platform. Like if you can see, this is my own website, this is the Printify pop-up store, and then I've got an eBay store as well. Under Title, I have mapped to the title, again, which just maps down to the title module, the exact same as we did before. And then I have dash acrylic wall art. For those of you publishing to eBay, heads up, you might need to remove this. eBay has a title limit, so if you bump into errors when trying to publish a product to an eBay store, that's likely what this is. I would go through and remove the dash product name. That's probably the best way to handle it. You can title it a little bit different in the eBay system, but it will not allow you to upload beyond, like, I think 32 characters. Then, under description, first thing, we map to the description generator module. Same thing, under choices, message, and map to content. Then, I've done a little bit of extra formatting, and feel free to copy this. Where did I get this? This is in the Printify product descriptions. So if you buy my blueprints, these are all pre-filled out for every product. All of this just takes the actual product specs from the Printify website, and I've provided them after the description so that they automatically populate when generating the description on your actual product listing. Simple as that. So if you need to recreate this, you would go over to Printify, find the product that you want to publish, and this is where I got it. I just copy-pasted stuff like that. Down here in the About section, feel free to copy whatever you want, and whatever you put in here underneath the description generator, it will populate the rest of it so that you have specs on your listing. Then we have the blueprint ID and the print provider ID. If you change these, you need to be very careful because the print provider ID sticks. So even if you change this, this will tend to stick. Whatever it was before, it stays. And if you do not make sure you've carefully selected the print provider that actually exists for this blueprint ID, you will get an error. What do I mean? So right now I'm set to acrylic prints Sensaria. This is what I want to create, and this is the actual creator of the product that's going to make and ship it for me. On Printify, what this looks like, let me find the acrylic print. All right. Acrylic prints. There we go. And Sensaria, you can see there is the blueprint provider ID. So this is what I'm making, and this is the provider, and these two match up right here. But let's say we want to change it to something else. Let's say I wanted to make, well, I'll just randomly choose anything, you know what I mean? So let's say I wanted to do this 15-ounce mug. So this is from Spoke Products, and it's a 15-ounce mug. If I wanted to create a different product, I'm going to type in 15. Or maybe mug is a better term to search in this case. I'm going to search mug. There we go. Mug 15 ounce. And it says generic brand. So I'm going to switch my provider ID. And notice how it stays Sensaria. That's a mistake, guys. It's holding on to that information. And if we try to upload it right now, it will error out. But you can see it has Spoke right there. And when I select Spoke, watch what happens. Now, when I refresh the provider ID list, it only shows what is available for this blueprint, and Sensaria is no longer available. So you kind of have to be careful there, guys, or you'll end up with an error that says blueprint ID mismatch, and that's exactly what it's talking about. But since I want to do the acrylic prints, I'm going to go back to the acrylic prints. Let me choose acrylic prints, and then I'm going to choose the correct provider ID. There we go, Sensaria. And now we're back in business. Next, you need to set up your variants. So for acrylic wall art, our variants are just different sizes. And I've decided to offer two different sizes, 24 by 36 and 20 by 30 for my vertical acrylic wall art blueprints. But if you want to offer different sizes to your audience, all you have to do is click down here and you can choose any of the sizes available. And if you want to add more than just two different sizes, if you want to add a wide range, a big selection for your audience, come down here and click Item, and you will add another variant, and add as many variants as you want. Notice what just happened, though, and I don't know if this is a glitch or what, but Make has always done this, and it can confuse people when they see it. It immediately switches to a variant number when you add another variant, and you can just toggle the mapping off, and it switches back to where you can manually browse. It's a little confusing, but it is what it is. So let's say we wanted to add a 16 by 20 size. We would select that, then we name our price, and before we go into specifics on price, notice how each variant has is enabled. If you're not careful and you add an item and it says is enabled is empty or no, then no, when you upload this, it will not create that variant for you. So a common problem is you'll need to select yes. If it's not enabled, then your variant is simply not enabled. Every time you add a new variant, it for some reason toggles the mapping, and that annoys me. I'm kind of OCD, so I have to go back and remap. So let's check out price. No, the price of this item is not going to be $29,900. What's actually going on here is that for some reason the Printify API does not want decimals, so you have to imagine an invisible decimal there, 2 spaces over. What this is $299, but we can't put the decimal there, it's just invisible. So to make it go into the system as $299, it needs to be 29900. And then down below, this is $249, and then down here is $189. Now let's say we wanted to do that retail thing and have something be 99 cents. You would have to erase those 2 zeros and add 99, and now the price for this is $189.99. It's a little weird, but it's just the way it is, and you need to know about it before publishing your products to Printify. Scroll on down, and the last mile in our product configuration is the print area. Now, because I'm doing wall art, and there's only one face on a piece of acrylic art, we only have the front position. And this is where setting up your product can become tricky. All of my blueprints are made so that it takes care of all the positioning, all of the scale and the XY placement. I went through and figured this out for a lot of different products. On products where there is more than one face, like on an all-over print, or on like a fanny pack where you have like the pocket and the front and the sides, you will have more than just the front position, and you will have to define each one. On something like wall art, we only have the front, and that means we only have to do the largest variant ID. That's what I find to be true. So instead of setting up a variant ID for, every different size that you've selected, I find that if it's only got just one front, then you only need to set up the largest size. So I selected my largest size in the variant IDs, and then under placeholders, I created one position. It's titled front, all lowercase letters, and then right here, I've created one image item, and then that's where I map to the image ID, which is the upload an image module. So the module we configured a second ago to upload our image, we need to map to the image ID. That takes the image that's been uploaded and applies it to the product. X and Y needs to be 0.5 on both, and this is pretty much true of anything that is just a front where you want it to be perfectly centered. That centers it in the middle of the canvas or whatever you're putting it on. Scale, in this case, is 1.0. There will be other products where I've done a different scaling, and the reason why the scale might change is to eliminate blank spaces that might happen. Some products will need a different scaling. This particular product, we are just going to leave it, so it's going to take it at the resolution right here and put it directly on as it is, scale 1.0. If we did 1.1 or 1.5, it's literally increasing the size times that amount to get the result. And you have to kind of be careful there. If you go scales higher than 1, sometimes you can end up with bad results. You don't want pixelated products. And sometimes you might even have to scale down, like for coffee mugs and the frosty pint glasses and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, I had to scale down to like 0.65. Basically, the image was just too large and it was cutting some of the image off. So in order to ensure that the entire image got placed on the product, I had to scale downward. And this is entirely case by case. Each product is different, so you might need a different scaling value depending on what product you're publishing. Angle, this one I've always found a little weird. It has to be 360, and this is pretty much true for all products in all positions. This makes sure that the image is right side up. If you leave this blank, it will put the image upside down for some reason. Who knows why? And of course, if you choose any other angle, it's going to skew it to that angle. 360 ensures that it's going in right side up. Then if we scroll down, you can add your tags. I always just tag my products with the name of the product itself. Usually at the level of your e-com store, you have the ability to sort categories by tags or something like that. That's all this really does. It tags the product so that I can more easily sort it in my store. That's it. Then we have print on side. This is set to off for an acrylic print because there is not a side to print on. However, if we had a canvas or something like that, you know how canvases, like my canvas back here, it has a bottom edge. And I don't know, you can't really see it from here. It has printing that wraps around the bottom edge. That's actually something I made for myself and I printed out. That's my Cthulhu painting in bright, cool colors. Anyway, print on sides, you have the option for mirror or regular. And mirror will kind of mirror it. You'd have to test the results, but this makes it so that it prints on the wraparound side of a canvas in the case of art. And it really doesn't apply to much else, actually. Right there's mainly for art. And that's it. That is the complete configuration of my acrylic wall art blueprint. Let's take this scenario for a test drive, give it a save, and let's hit run and see the product output. Sweet, scenario execution has completed, easy bake oven. Now let's switch over to Printify. There it is. Sweet, let's check out what it made. Elegant Fractures is the name that it gave it. Oh, beautiful. I like it. I wonder if these will sell, guys. I do think that is pretty. I would like to have that in my office if I was a professional of some kind, let's say. Cool. And then let's check out the description. Transform your space with our captivating, elegant Fractures vertical acrylic wall art. It gives descriptions, it gives my tags, and then it follows up with the specs that I copy pasted into the description module. Boom. And then let's scroll down and look at the prices. I've got my 2 variants enabled, and you can see the price that it went into the system. You see my total profit, and if I need to adjust my prices, I can do so here. And this is really where you decide how you're going to price it. And this is purely a matter of what your target audience is, how much margin do you actually need. Do I really need a $100 margin? Well, in my experience running ads, yes, it's kind of nice to have that margin. You can actually spend quite a bit running ads if you haven't yet captured or know how to find your target audience. Once you've verified that everything is as you want it to be and all details look accurate, you'll need to publish your product. My workflows publish in an unpublished state, in a draft state, and then you have to come into Printify, select your item, and publish it after you've verified that everything is correct. I highly recommend doing this. If you do dial in all of your workflow and you are getting consistent results and you feel like you no longer need to audit what's coming out of the system, then you can actually do this in a little bit different way. Right after you create a product module, you can add another Printify module and you can publish the product. So right here we have publish a product, and if we want to set that up, we would say shop ID, and we need to deselect the map as usual, choose the store where we want to publish. Where it says product ID, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to map right here, select mapping, so this will be a little bit different. And where we created a product, you're going to want to choose this product ID. Title, yes. Description, yes. Images, yes. variants, yes, tags, yes. This ensures that everything uploads and publishes to your platform, and hit save. And what you've done here, now you have a workflow that will not only create the product, but it will publish it to your store. Again, unless you are just totally confident in the results that you are getting and you are nailing 100% consistency, I do not recommend this. I recommend publishing in a draft state, manually looking over your products, and then publishing within Printify. That's it for today's lesson. I hope this video helps you and empowers your AI automated print-on-demand journey. Stay tuned. Next week, I'm going to have a video where we deep dive into prompting with my joke generator segment. I'm going to show you how to create really funny content in creative ways, use your imagination and get those juices flowing, and we're going to use that to create 3 different style coffee mugs. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for staying to the end. Head on over to my website if you want to download some freebies. I've got some cool stuff like my social media magic wand. Thank you, everybody. Onward and upward.